You have no embassy, no uniform, no official rank. And you've just been handed a passport with a name that isn't yours, and a country that will deny you ever existed if you get caught. The organization that employs you has no publicly listed address, no official org chart. For decades, even the name of its director was a state secret. It has a workforce of roughly 7,000 people. And it has pulled off operations that agencies with 10 times the budget and 10 times the manpower couldn't come close to. Most intelligence agencies want you to know they exist. They want the deterrence. This one doesn't, and right now you work for it. This is your life, level by level, inside the Mossad. It doesn't start with a test. It doesn't start with a form or an interview or a government website. It starts with coffee. You've just finished a shift at your IDF intelligence unit. Nothing unusual about the day. Nothing unusual about the man who catches you on the way out. Quiet, unremarkable, the kind of face you've seen 100 times without registering it. He asks if you have a few minutes. You do. He asks about your language skills. Conversational? Fluent? Do you read as well as you speak? He asks about your patience. Whether you're comfortable with uncertainty. Whether you mind traveling on short notice. He smiles when he says it, like it's casual. Like this is just conversation. He never mentions an organization. He never mentions a purpose. He pays for the coffee and says he'll be in touch. 3 weeks later, he calls. The second meeting is in a different city, different cafe, same unremarkable suit. That's when you understand, not because he tells you, but because you're smart enough to read the silence, that you have already been watched. Evaluated, scored. The conversation you thought was random was the last stage of a process that started months ago, in a file you will never see with your name at the top. Mossad does not advertise, it does not recruit at job fairs. According to accounts from former operatives, including Viktor Ostrovsky, who documented this process in detail, recruiters are embedded inside military units, universities, and diaspora communities watching for the specific combination of qualities that can't be trained. Languages, psychological stability, the ability to be nobody in a room full of people. If they want you, someone you already trust approaches you. If they don't want you, you never know they were watching. You haven't said yes yet, but somehow you're already in. The building has no sign. You're told where to go. You go. That's it. There's no welcome packet, no orientation video, no HR department. The first thing they take is your phone. They hand you a different one. It looks identical. Same model, same scratches almost. You put it in your pocket and try not to think about what that means. The facility is referred to internally as the Midrasha, a Hebrew word that simply means school. Its location near the coastal city of Herzliya has been widely reported by investigative journalists over the years, though the Israeli government has never officially confirmed it. What happens inside has been described in enough detail by former personnel to paint a picture. 2 years of training, minimum, before you see a real field assignment. Surveillance, how to conduct it, how to detect it, how to lose a tail on foot through a city you've never visited before. Cover construction, not just a fake name, but a fake life. Fake employment history, fake relationships. A backstory detailed enough to survive a dinner conversation with someone who gets suspicious for a living. Dead drops. The specific geometry of how information moves without two people ever being in the same place. And psychology. More psychology than anything else. You practice your cover story every morning, out loud, in the mirror, in the shower. At meals. Your instructors correct you not when you get the facts wrong, but when you hesitate. When your eyes move. When you pause a half-second too long on a detail that should feel automatic. The goal is not to make lying easy. The goal is to make the truth feel like effort. Your instructors never use their real names. You notice this early. You don't ask. By week 2, you're doing the same thing without being told to. By week 3, you catch yourself forgetting which version of yourself is real. Your cover is a consulting firm. It has a website, a LinkedIn page, 2 employees who don't exist. A registered office address in a building where a real receptionist answers the phone with your company's name because she's been hired to do exactly that and has no idea why. You are a Katsa, a field case officer. The frontline operative who doesn't run operations. You run people. In the Tradecraft vocabulary of intelligence work, you manage assets. Human sources. In the world outside that vocabulary, they are people who trust you with information they shouldn't be sharing in exchange for money that looks like something else, for reasons they've convinced themselves are justified. Your current asset is a mid-level government official in a European capital. He thinks you're a private intelligence consultant who pays well and asks smart questions. He's right about one of those things. You meet weekly. You pay him through a process that generates clean paperwork. He files it as a consulting fee. You file it as something only your handler ever sees. What makes the Mossad structurally unusual, documented by Ostrovsky and reported across multiple credible publications, is the Sionim network. Jewish diaspora volunteers worldwide who provide logistical support to operations. A safe house here, a phone registered to a local address there, access to a vehicle when one is needed. They don't know the operational details. They don't ask. They provide what's needed and return to their normal lives. It's a support architecture that no other intelligence agency in the world has access to, invisible, distributed, loyal, and almost impossible to map. You use it without thinking about it now. The same way you use the cover identity. The same way you use the name your handler calls you, which is not your name. You've been living this lie for long enough that when you do something in your real name, sign a form, use your original passport at a border, it feels strange. The truth feels like the cover story. Your handler sends you a photograph, a name, a posting, a brief. The target is a procurement officer at a defense ministry, mid-level. Access to documentation tracking weapons transfers across 3 countries. He is not a criminal. He is not being investigated. He is simply someone who has information your organization needs, and your job is to make him want to give it to you, not to steal it. To make him hand it over willingly. You spend 3 months building the relationship. You meet at industry events first, then casual dinners. You listen more than you talk. You remember details, his daughter's name, the football club he follows, the restaurant he always wants to try but never books. You become someone he genuinely looks forward to seeing. This Tradecraft has a clinical name in intelligence circles. But what you're doing on a human level is simpler and darker than any label. You are manufacturing a friendship with the precision of an engineer and the patience of someone who already knows how it ends. In 1986, a Mossad operative used a romantic version of this approach to lure nuclear technician Mordecai Vanunu, who had leaked details of Israel's nuclear weapons program to the press, from London to Rome. Vanunu trusted her completely. She walked him onto a flight. He was rendered back to Israel, tried in secret, and sentenced to 18 years in prison. The Israeli government eventually acknowledged the operation decades later. The relationship was real to him. That was the point. The day your target slides a USB drive across a cafe table and says, "I think this is what you were looking for," he smiles like he's doing a friend a favor. You smile back. You know you will never contact him again. He trusted you completely. That's exactly why you chose him. The call comes at 3 a.m., not your real phone. The other one. Your handler's voice is flat, no greeting. He gives you 30 seconds of information and then a single instruction. Go dark. That's it. The call ends. You turn on the news. Your face isn't on screen, not your real face, but the name on the passport in your jacket pocket? That name is a news channel in 6 countries. Dubai police have released CCTV footage from a hotel corridor, 27 people. Captured by cameras in a building that nobody thought to account for. The passports used by the team. British, Irish, Australian, French, German, all forged. All now being traced by the intelligence agencies of those countries, allies, technically, who are furious. The operation in Dubai in January 2010, in which Hamas commander Mahmoud al-Mabhah was killed in his hotel room, became one of the most publicly documented intelligence exposures in modern history. The footage was global within hours. The diplomatic fallout lasted years. Several countries expelled Israeli diplomats. Israel never officially confirmed involvement. Your government is currently on international television saying it has no knowledge of the individuals identified. You move to the first safe house. You stay 48 hours, then you move again. No calls, no check-ins. Nothing that generates a signal. Here, alone in a city that doesn't know your name, watching a country that employed you deny your existence to a global press conference, is the moment the architecture becomes clear. Deniability was never designed to protect you. It was designed to protect them. You knew this going in. Somewhere, in a training room at a building with no sign, someone explained this concept and you nodded like you understood it. You didn't understand it then. You understand it now. The country you work for is currently denying you exist on live television. The briefing is different this time. You notice it immediately. The room is smaller. The people in it are fewer. Your handler is there, but he's not running the meeting. Someone you've never seen before is. There is no asset profile to memorize. No target to befriend. There is a photograph, a name, a city, and a 72-hour window. Your team has 7 people. You will operate under a Hebrew code designation. You are told to forget the moment the operation concludes. You will receive no backup. If something goes wrong, the protocol from level 5 applies, except this time there will be no news footage. This time there will be nothing at all. You have been invited into what is reported in Ronen Bergman's exhaustively sourced account Rise and Kill First, based on hundreds of interviews with current and former Israeli intelligence officials, as the Caesarea Division, Mossad Special Operations Unit. Distinct from regular field operations in every meaningful way. Membership is not applied for. It is extended after years of demonstrated field performance to operatives who have shown a specific quality that's difficult to name and impossible to fake. The 1999 operation in Amman, Jordan, a botched attempt that ended with 2 Mossad operatives captured by Jordanian security services while using forged Canadian passports, briefly illuminated this division's existence to the outside world. A crisis that required a personal intervention at the highest levels of government to resolve. The operatives came home. The mission was never officially confirmed. Used to recruit informants, now you are what they were afraid of. There is no ceremony, no promotion letter, no new title, no handshake. One morning, your handler simply looks at you differently. And you understand. Within the Caesarea Division, according to multiple credible sources including Bergman's Rise and Kill First, there is reported to be a further subunit. Its name, reportedly, is Kidon, Hebrew for bayonet or spearhead. Israel does not officially confirm its existence. What has been documented across decades of investigative journalism and sourced nonfiction is a pattern of operations attributed to this level of the organization. Operations that began as early as the aftermath of the 1972 Munich Olympics massacre. 11 Israeli athletes were murdered by the Palestinian Black September group. What followed, according to documented historical accounts, was a campaign called Operation Wrath of God, a decades-long systematic operation to find and eliminate those responsible, not through courts, not through extradition, through individuals carrying forged documents in cities where no one expected them. The last target wasn't found until 20 years later. Your briefings now have a different weight. The targets are no longer information sources. There is no asset to cultivate, no document to copy, no cover company to maintain. There is a decision made somewhere above your government's elected leadership, in a room you will never see, and your hands carrying it out in a city that will not connect it to anyone for a very long time. The system is designed specifically and deliberately to make it possible for people like you to function, to go home, to eat breakfast the next morning, to not process what has happened until it is so far behind you that it has become, simply, history. You are not a monster. You are a mechanism. And the distinction is something you stopped examining some time ago because examining it costs more than you have left to spend. The file is closed. The city forgets. You carry it forever. You submit the request on a Tuesday. Stepping back from active operations, you phrase it carefully. You've been in the field long enough to know that the language matters, that even internal communications exist somewhere in a system, and that the words you choose now will follow you. Your handler, your fourth in a career that has spanned more years and more names than you can account for without thinking, reads it once, looks up, and says something you won't forget. He says, "There's no such thing as stepping back. There's only stepping differently." You don't argue. What follows is a transition. You consult. You train new recruits at a facility with no sign, using a name that isn't yours in front of people who don't know that either. You sit in rooms where you're introduced by a function, never a name. You review operations from the outside, the way a person reads about a country they once lived in, with knowledge no one else in the room has, and a very specific kind of quiet. In 1990, a former Mossad Katsa named Viktor Ostrovsky published a book called By Way of Deception, a detailed account of his training and field experience. The Israeli government attempted to suppress its publication through U.S. courts, arguing it endangered lives. A U.S. judge ruled in favor of the publisher. The book became an international bestseller. Ostrovsky spent years afterward under documented death threats. He wrote one sentence that has stayed in the public record since. He said that leaving Mossad is not something that happens, it is something you perform. For the rest of your life, your old cover identities still exist. Somewhere on a server you will never access. The person you used to be is still alive, still employed by a company that has a website, a LinkedIn page, and 2 employees who don't exist. There are countries you can never visit again. Cities where someone was shown your photograph and told to remember it. People who, if they ever passed you on a street, would recognize a face that was never supposed to be seen. You gave them your name, your face, your years, your conscience. And the only receipt you got was silence. Somewhere right now, a man in an unremarkable suit is having coffee with someone who trusts him. He's asking about language skills, about patience, about whether they mind travel. He's paying for the coffee. And the person across from him, young, smart, slightly flattered by the attention, thinks this is just a conversation. They don't know a file already exists, that their name is already at the top of a page in a building with no sign, that the process began before this meeting and will continue long after it. There is no application form. There is no official address. There is no record of this coffee shop, this conversation, or this moment. There's only a passport somewhere with a name that isn't yours, and a country that will never admit it sent you.